Hey guys, and welcome to a very special video you may recognize as Factory. We are in the factory from the Friday Facts 187 a couple weeks ago, and we're here with a very special guest, actually the dev who made this, V.
Hello.
And yeah, so he was nice enough to join us for this, and we're gonna just kind of take a base tour of this absolutely crazy factory. I don't think I've seen anything quite like this before. It's pretty ridiculous and amazing at the same time. So I guess we'll just kind of get started somewhere in the middle here. It's a little bit difficult to walk because these belts are literally everywhere you can place a belt, pretty much.
Found a spot I can stand on. Safe here. And cling to this assembler.
Actually, this is a very good spot to start from, because if you look carefully next to the Terminator, you're actually standing on a stone path. Right? It's hard to
which
spot,
has been built over.
Yeah, but the stone path, it's like a cross. If you see when I'm walking, it's going vertically and horizontally from where you are.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like the old border of the original factory. And the main factory was here on the top right. You see that there's the burner inserter being produced, the normal inserter, assembly machine level 1, minor, the essential things that you do first.
Mm-hmm.
And then everything else, it just grew to the sides. And for example, here on the left, these assembly machines, these are like extra because they needed more for the blue science. And here was a green circuit production. Now it got repurposed to the train, because obviously the train can deliver a lot more than the circuits could get in this little spot.
Right.
And that's basically how almost everything in this factory actually worked. Like in the place where is the iron plate like import, there was basically iron plate smelting, and copper plate, same thing. And this way, very similarly, like it's not always like exactly in that spot, but it's just general idea how it all grew up to be this kind of thing.
Wow. This is so I mean, really, this actually developed like this naturally, or did you go into this planning to build this like spaghetti type of base?
Well, it's something in between, because the first point, like the main point, is that it's actually natural. I just build things, and when I see that there's some problem somewhere, I fix it. And other than that, I'm just trying to maintain it and just keep the mess, because I just simply I enjoy building this thing and being constrained by the space and trying to figure out, oh, how do I, fit these two signal assembling machines in here in all this mess and expand these assembling machine level 1 productions that I have enough for the science pack. And if you look to the right of the base, you can see that the more you go to the right, the cleaner it actually gets. And that's because the center is where it all started. And if I have like a problem that I can't really solve inside, like for example, here, yeah, exactly where you're standing, you have 6 assemblers for red science.
Mm-hmm.
And at some point, obviously, these weren't enough. And as you can see, you can't really beacon them. You're just screwed. So
Right.
what I just do is that I just extend the production to the right. In fact, it's the same belt for the input. It's just that you get more production. And it's the same way for all the things. Like I'm trying at all costs to solve it like as much in the center as possible. But if I can't, then I simply just move it outside. And eventually things just grow on the outside as well, because it just gets complicated. Like for example, here in this basically junction around the rocket silo, it's like originally that was just, I think, red circuit and engine belt. And eventually it just grew up to be all this, because you just need more and then you need another connection. It's just one by one. It's not like this isn't built all at the same time. It's just over time, and suddenly after 10 hours, you just zoom out and you're like, oh God, what have I done? It's like, yeah. It's actually like, this is like one of the main reasons why I enjoy playing Factorio. So like building this kind of a base, this is like the main thing that I really need to do in every game. If you look at the map view, or like in general, you can see that each of the substations, or like the smaller train stations, which like produce iron plates or produce copper plates or have one specific task, these are like much more organized. It never gets to this kind of super mess and hardcore stuff, because they are there just to do one job, and that is to feed this main monster. But I don't actually care that much about solving like these kind of problems that I said before, like space issues and trying to go through the factory even though it's utterly stupid, and just having this insanity, just because, as I say, they have just that simple purpose: feed me, and that's what they do.
Yeah. Wow. This is I don't know. Like, I'm looking at your plastic pickup, and there's this is probably the biggest balancer I've ever seen in my time playing Factorio.
Oh, plastic pickup?
Or not plastic, sorry, iron, I think. All the train station names
yeah.
overlap. It's hard to
yeah.
Iron pickup. We have like
just look at the icons.
yeah, you have 16 input lanes, and it's going to like I think this
32.
is 32.
I actually didn't like build the balancer on my own. I actually stole it from some blueprint string because it's insane.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
Wow.
The initial concept is actually, if you go up to the furnaces, I really like this furnace layout because you can actually have two belts as an output, which means that you're actually making sure that if you input a full belt of ore, you get 120%, right? Because of the productivity modules. Actually, you need more than one belt to output it. And I guess like the best way to do this would be like to say, okay, I produce 5 belts. The 6th belt is the combination of the extra 20% for each of them.
Right.
But the initial plan was that I wouldn't have 16, I would have 32. And every 5th one would be almost empty. But yeah, currently I have this works, and yeah, it's just not necessary to do anything else just because it does what it should. But yeah,
wow.
It's large.
Yeah. So
the thing is that when I have the stations, the rails are pretty close together, and that means that you can only build like this kind of very simple stations. And I don't even think that you can fit more than 8 inserters per train. And the inserters actually eventually become the bottleneck. You actually need more inserters. And that's actually the main reason why there is so many platforms. It's not because I'm expecting so many trains to wait there, although it's possible. But it's mainly because I simply need to load with that many inserters to actually satisfy the production.
Right. So Will, what are your thoughts here?
I have a headache.
It is.
I might just mention the idea of the train system, because I've never really used this kind of thing before, and you can see that most of the stations, they either have a combinator which actually controls if the train can leave, and the signals are usually controlled as well. So, for example, if I have like the pickup of the iron ore, you can see that the stations are actually being filled by the inserters, but the trains don't always enter the station. And that's because, this thing from Zurich, like inserters being controlled by the circuit network, balancing the chests. It doesn't work very well when the train is actually in the station. But so I'm basically making sure that the station fills first, and then I quickly fill the train, which isn't very efficient because either the one inserters are working or the other, while I could have both work at the same time. But if I just provide enough platforms like this, it works fine. So yeah, but well, the general main idea is that whenever trains are trying to load, I have this kind of system that there is a lot of trains and they are just trying to see if they can load. And it works like on demand in a way that the train only leaves the station if it's empty, which means obviously that if you suddenly over deliver to some station, they will start waiting there because they just didn't manage to empty. So it's quite dangerous because you need to make sure that you have enough waiting space, for example, in the main base. So if I deliver gears, I will need to make sure that I have 2 trains for gears right now. I will need to make sure that they can't block any other traffic or that the gears get used. So it's not really easy to make it work, but once you have it working, it's very nice because it's very controllable in a way that you actually know exactly what the trains are doing. And
Right.
they never really travel like inefficiently. They only travel when they need to.
Exactly. Yeah, very, very good system for the most part.
Honestly, if I did it again, I would probably try to do something along the lines with disabling the train stations. I'm actually going to do that in my next factory, whenever that's going to be. Like, I'm actually going to have, like, let's say, 4 import stations for iron plates with the same name. I'm just going to disable them at random parts. I actually think that this will show some weird things in the train pathfinder, but let's see about that. Because if they are far apart, it will probably do some weird things, but we'll see. I also want to see how much can I fool the trains. Like, for example, if I disable all 4 stations, then if I make a fake station where they should actually be waiting and then control it through a circuit network to store the trains there. Well, let's see what it does. That's far future for now. Not
Right.
in this case.
Wow. So, I don't know. Well, I mean, you said before we started that if we saw something that, we've never really seen or done, or that, is done differently here, we'd go over it. But I feel like that's just the whole factory.
Yeah,
possible.
pretty much.
I mean, I don't think I could
is-
build like this if I tried.
No, I couldn't. It wouldn't happen. I'd end up with a main bus.
Yeah, I've tried building a main bus like once. But when I did it the second time, it was just, the factory was basically the same. It's just, you build 4 belts, 2 gaps, 4 belts, And it's like, if you do this every single time in the game, I just, for me, this kind of like bootstrap base, the original base, the starting one, I never want to tear it down. And if I start with something that's like predefined and I do it in every single game, I just don't feel like invested into that particular map to actually play it. While this is unique, this is for me like, this is like very valuable. So I want to like build up on it and improve it. While if it was like similar or the same that I already did, I just don't enjoy it. So that's
fair.
basically what drives this. And I guess it's understandable, but at the same time, yeah, it's weird. And in many ways, it's kind of masochistic because you're just, let's say I want to build a belt from here where we stand to you or wherever, and you start searching for things. Like, for example, here is a heavy oil pipe, and it's going through the factory to the other refineries, like through everything, or maybe to the lubricant production. I'm actually not sure.
Yeah.
But point still stands that at some point I actually went ahead and just said, okay, I want this pipe to just go from here to there. And you just start going, and eventually you just, you move a belt here, you make an underground belt here. Sometimes it takes more drastic solutions. But so far, always I somehow either found a solution or just solved it in a way. And yeah, as I said already, it's just slowly you do these things like one at a time, and eventually this just happens.
Wow.
Wow.
Wow. I mean, that's all I can say. It's
Wow.
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 It's because I used to build like this when I first started, but not to this extreme. And I really like it's not efficient, but it's really interesting. Is what I like about it. It's challenging too.
The thing is that basically it's not trying to, like when you build in the beginning, you do kind of like a mess. And this isn't trying to abandon that idea. It's actually trying to build up on it and just make it functional. Like, for example, I have like very few rules for myself in the factory. There's really not many. One of them is like, whenever I'm pulling something by an inserter, I always make sure that there is a splitter in front of it, so that whenever the factory starts running low on supplies, it's still producing kind of everything. Of course, the ratio isn't perfect, and you get, for example, 10 times more copper than for something else. But the idea still stands that just don't end up in a situation where you're like, oh, well, this science isn't producing very much. I actually need more power. And then you figure out, oh, well, the steam engines are dried out because there's not enough iron plates because the science already took them. And like now you have a problem that you need to produce 100 of steam engines from something that you don't have and something that you should have been like building up over all the time. So just by having like a splitter everywhere, which is actually kind of the idea of the bus, right?
Mm-hmm.
That like it's basically functionally it's like the same. It's just that like the way how it looks is different, obviously, but you know, there's actually some functional rules for this.
Right, of course.
The other thing is like if you have a bus and you just decide, okay, I'm going to go with 4 belts for iron, and then well, like 20 hours later you decide, oh, I need 8. It's usually quite a bit of a problem as well, like to actually do something like that, to extend it easily. So in here, yeah, if I just discover that I need more steel in the northern part of the factory, I just bring a train in there and I just somehow make room for the station, and that's how I do it. So it's not necessarily like trying to expand in the same way, but it's usually doable. I never really had huge issues.
Yeah, I mean, it
And
seems...
another thing is robots. Like I have a very strong opinion about robots. Not necessarily because I would like directly hate them. It's just if I built a bot-based factory, none of this would exist at all. Like there would be no reason for it. It would just be a square shape of everything, like one assembler after another with a ton of roboports, which in a way it's fine. As I said previously, it's fine for the factories which I have the purpose of just feeding it. But this main thing, I would actually never build like a really heavy robot-based factory for the main one, just because I'm interested in solving all this mess.
Yeah, I can see that with the amount of bots in the network. 1,200 Logi, 16,000 construction.
Yeah. Yeah. For example, if you look at the green circuit production or the copper wires, I've actually like half or completely turned it to bot based, and that's just because first I can get like instead of 8 inserters, I can actually get, let's see, 24. Yeah, I can actually get 24 inserters like per wagon or well per train, which obviously is a giant difference in the throughput of the single station platform. At the same time, like belting the wires was simply too insane to do anymore. I had like 32 belts out of these, I don't know, 16 or 8 platforms. Yeah, 8. Yeah, then I guess I had 16 belts, but whatever, it was a lot. And there's a point where you're like, no, fuck this. This is not worth it. Just turn it to bots and be happy.
Yeah.
And yeah, since it's just the side factories, which, as I said previously, is just this like node that you produce something, give me things, and bring them back. And there's not much point in defending forever something that isn't so necessary. Like I absolutely understand that bots are much more efficient for UPS overall. But yeah, I'm usually trying to defend myself from using them for as long as I can. But there's always the point where you break.
Yeah, for sure.
Actually, like when I was playing this, before I turned the copper wire and the green circuit production to bots, I had like 5 or 10 less UPS. It was actually changing as the factory was producing more or less and things stopped.
Oh, God.
But it was actually quite a big improvement because those were like the heaviest factories. Even in the production screen, you can see that, I guess as in every factory, the copper wire is just way up there. So just transporting these things was a nightmare for the simulation, I guess.
Oh, yeah. I mean, 10 UPS, that I would feel like that is pretty much almost unplayable.
No, I mean, like the difference was 5
the
to 10
difference
UPS.
between, yeah.
Yeah. So it was like, let's say, I don't know, 25, and now I have about 35 on my home computer. At work, I have like 45 to 50 actually.
Wow.
Well,
nice.
not lately. It's like around 40. I've expanded a bit and lost another 10, but yeah, it's
Sounds like me.
Yeah. That sounds like Will.
yeah, I can imagine that.
Speaking of you, Will, I'm looking at these laser turret walls. This sounds like what Zenith was talking about for the mega base. You see these like walls of which is like 3 rows of turrets.
Yeah.
Yeah, as you can actually see on the map, there's like a lot of problems. There's a lot of like supplies missing to walls and robots missing at walls and that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Mostly it's just because like I had the like great plan of building the giant wall around everything and tearing those down. So I never really cared to actually like upkeep them. So yeah, I kind of like left alone and just survive for as long as you can.
Yeah.
At the same time, as I said, like the playing time, it's very raw. So I was actually doing something and building something in the factory all the time. So I simply just didn't have time to care about the wall since I didn't really have to. So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
As you can see here, like actually the rockets are, like, I didn't say it before, but the whole purpose of this factory is it was to test the rocket science. I actually made a simple mod for 015 for myself. It was actually a chest that when you launch the rocket, you would get stuff in the chest. It was actually the science packs. So originally this was actually like a slightly modded save, but just in that regard. Now the mod basically doesn't exist and there's no point in releasing it because it does exactly the same as the rocket science does.
Right.
Yeah, I really like the rocket science. It gives a purpose to launching rockets. And
Yeah. As I wrote in the Friday Facts, it's one of the concepts that it was one of the ideas that I had from the very beginning when I actually knew about Factorio and when I finished the game for the first time. And over time, I just refined the idea. And now when we did Infinite Science, it was like a clear thing. It was nothing else that I actually wanted more in the game. I was like asking our seeding every other week, and how about the rocket science? And I was doing this for like a year or something. And people in the office were actually like making fun of me because they knew that it's like something that I would mention very often. Now it finally happened. So I can like relax my brain in peace and focus on other things.
Yeah.
move on to the next thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Now I'll be annoying with something else for a year. And
we have a list of suggestions.
Yeah, a big list.
I have my own ideas as well. So if I run out of these, I will ask you for the list. Well, I will probably ask you for the list regardless, just because I'm interested. But, you know,
I'm interested to see if any of our ideas are on your list.
I would imagine some are.
It's actually quite likely, I think.
We'll have to compare at some point.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool.
Well, we can do that.
So, I mean, this, in terms of the 2 apart, I think I personally have walked around most of the base and I've looked around in the map view and stuff. So, I don't know. Will, did you want to move into more kind of like question parts, or did you want to like go look at outposts, or what do you guys want to do here?
I'd like to have just talk about this bit over here because I saw this on in the imager file from the Friday Facts. This train yardy bit here is actually my favorite bit of the whole map because this train yard is exactly how I pictured train yards to be in Factorio when I first realized that trains were in the game, because this is almost identical to like how real train yards are laid out.
Yeah,
all these little sidings and all feed off of a branch that feed off of another branch.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Trains come in and they just wriggle their way through it and eventually find their siding.
Yeah, it's actually like, again, it's just like organic, because there was first, I don't even know which one was first. I think it was the copper wire station. And then the rest is just like built on top of it. It's just, okay, now I need steel, and now I need this, now I need that. Like, you can see it quite clearly on the top right with the production for the rocket things. That is just another like slept down thing that's just attached to it. And I just, oh, I needed this. So, yeah.
Yeah. I think a couple of our engineering yards in certain playthroughs have looked a little bit like this, but this one just really looks cool.
It really does, yeah.
If you just track it back this way, you can see that we're not even at the main line yet because there's still sidings, still sidings right here. This is the start of it. So every train comes in or out through here.
Wow.
I'm also really pleased that you're using double-headed.
I was just going to say that.
Yeah. I prefer double-headed trains, basically exactly for this reason, that you can simply get inside of the factory and get back. Because if I build like I do, then if you, for example, look at the like circuit, like green and red circuit import in the center of the base, basically, I don't know how would I possibly build a loop there or like something to turn around. You just simply wouldn't, or you would kill so many things and buildings. And curved rails are actually very restrictive in a way how to, go under them with an underground or something.
Yeah.
So yeah, I prefer to just get in the base and back. I know it has some dead weight and stuff, but overall for the train system, I just believe that double-headed is the way. But I'm not condemning that, like, building single-headed is actually like bad in a way. Anyway, it's just I just use this.
Yeah, I'm hard to agree with it.
Yep, I agree.
You can just slot it in, unload, and the train just slips back out the way it came.
Yeah, and the thing is also, like, when I'm building in the beginning, I'm always trying to like think further, like forward. And if I imagine that I build for 100 hours and I have a single-headed system, and then I decide, oh, I actually want to do this, but I can't because my trains can't reverse. So it's like, actually, many, like, for example, if you look down in the, like, below the main junction of the rails, there's like an old smelting setup. You can actually see that these stations are like going through. They're not actually like making use of the double-headed system. So, I mean, you can do that. It's totally fine. It's just that if you decide later that you actually want to use like the terminal stations where they just end and go back, you need double-headed trains for that. So I'm mainly trying to defend myself from this kind of decision that after some while I realize that I want to change the length of all my trains. And I always build my junctions so that like they regard the lengths of the waiting base for the trains, which I guess is kind of obvious if you want high throughput, but yeah.
Rocket launch.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I was watching the main junction. It's like, it's super
Yeah, I want to go look
fascinating
at
to
that
watch.
in a minute.
Yeah.
My launch.
Auto launch.
I think
slow motion.
One of the things I like about this train thing is you have an entire train just for explosives. we thought...
there's a train for everything.
I should probably be kept away from that train.
Yeah, well, step back.
Can we go look at the Junction of Doom in person?
You mean the central one?
Yeah.
It's awesome. I think it's probably comparable to your Junction of Doom.
That's why I call it a Junction of Doom, because it's effectively the same thing, different layout, but so. Right.
That's actually one of the things. Like, one of the motivations that I had for this kind of train system was I wanted to play with like heavy train junctions a lot. I wanted to see how exactly can I make a junction better? Like, what are the possible ways how to improve throughput and these kinds of things? And I was actually quite disappointed, honestly, to see that the only thing that you need to know is that you need to separate the blocks, and the more you separate the blocks, the faster the junction is going to be eventually. Like, for example, that we have this like waiting bay in here. Obviously it makes it faster because the trains can wait and they don't need to wait in the beginning of the junction. Like in the newer junctions that I built, I've actually made even more waiting spaces. Obviously there they aren't necessary because it's less traffic, but that's basically all there is to it. So I don't know if I actually want to make like train tunnels, because I'm not sure if it's necessary, because as we can see with this kind of train system, or with like what you guys built, you can get stupid amount of throughput with the trains already, so it's not like you absolutely need it. It's just, I think it would make it more interesting in terms of junction building, because now it's really just this.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is signaled from the textbook absolutely perfectly.
Yeah, well, I've played a lot of OpenTTD, I don't know if you know that, so...
Yeah,
there's a reason.
as much. Yeah, I'm a semi-trans person myself, but signals are the same.
I completely agree. I think really the main issue is when you get when you get to a train that's like a 242 or even 383 or 262, leaving the space for the train length within the junction results in absolutely ungodly massive junctions. I mean, this is huge, and you're only running 121s.
Yeah, I was actually quite like, when I was actually building this junction, I was like, this is the first junction in the like final scale that I've actually built. Originally, it was like 2 rails in each direction, I think. Then I expanded it into 4. But this is the first one that actually reached like the 4 in each. And I was like, this is absolutely insane. I have so small trains, and the junction is as large as my main factory as a whole.
Yep.
It's like the scale of trains is just absolutely insane. And especially when I consider that I actually have like the smallest trains that you can basically reasonably have. It's kind of, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll see.
Yep. And here we are planning 383 for the.
Yeah.
Oh, we're gonna. But we did discover though. I did really like what we discovered with our traffic light system.
Yeah,
that seems to help a lot.
Yeah. So like I said, this is textbook signaled perfectly, but in our simulation of version 15 map, we started to move beyond that and was removing chain signals and putting normal ones in, but controlling them via the circuit network and basically making our own signal system.
Nice. That's very nice. That's actually exactly what I was thinking about like a week ago when I was like revisiting the save. So I was thinking like, how can I make this junction better? Like the signals are, as you say, they're basically perfect. There's not much to improve. But yeah, I was thinking about exactly this kind of like circuit network driven idea that exactly, you just wouldn't merge the blocks so that they don't have to wait for as long. But then I was like, man, how do I actually handle all these things? And I didn't like even try to implement it. So I'll actually be pretty interested to see what did you guys do, because that could be much, much better. Pretty damn interesting.
Yeah, I'm trying to find an example of if we can.
Yeah.
So these trains coming from the top left.
Yes.
Sorry. So, if they want to come down, so we've got a copper ore train and
this one. Right.
Yeah. So what we would do is, as he comes down, he blocks all the trains going across him at the same time.
Right.
So what we would do is we would have, I'm going to try and get up there. We'd have the trains held up at the stop at the top where that coal train is now.
Yes.
And he would be held there by the circuit signal until, say, like this copper wire train. Perfect. And now the copper wire and the coal would be forced to go together. And now, so that meant that if you're stopping other directions for not to let just one train across, you make sure that you hold it until 2 or 3 want to go.
Right. Yeah. So basically, we're just trying to batch them, all of them together in the same direction, so they use it efficiently.
Exactly.
Yeah, is it pretty much how traffic lights work on a road junction in real life? You let one direction have a go, and that is allows a lot more throughput of the junction as a whole. Might be bad for individual trains now and then, while they have to wait for someone to go with them. But as a whole, the junction, in the bigger picture, the junction works better.
Yeah, in OpenTTD, we use a very similar system where you just don't care about the individual. You just look at the bigger picture if the whole thing works faster or not.
Yeah,
that's very nice. That's very interesting. I'm very happy to hear that you actually did this kind of thing, because I'm really interested to see how it works.
Yeah, it would be useful if we could connect the chain signals to the circuit network.
I'm suggesting that from the beginning when we started connecting rail signals to the circuit network. But the issue is that it's somehow like it's a mix between the circuit network and the train pathfinding. And Martin or Hansi is already saying that like it would be absolutely insane to like do it for the pathfinder of the trains when you can actually disable anything. I guess it's like possible that it could happen, but it would be so much work that I'm not sure if it's like necessary right now. Eventually maybe, but I'm kind of hoping that it would, because as you say, it would be really nice. And exactly for these kinds of things, it would be pretty interesting.
Yeah. I see, it just worked perfectly there. 4 trains going from bottom left to top at the same time.
Yeah.
And now 2 should be able to go north together and 2 south.
Yes.
Yeah, perfect.
Yes.
And the junction, there's nothing else waiting now. It's cleared itself. Rather than the free fall you get with just a textbook signal junction.
Yeah, I understand. It's very interesting. As I say, it's very, very nice.
Yeah, for sure. So, wow, I mean, I could just watch this forever, but
Me too.
Yeah, this is hypnotizing.
Yeah, my chat would be happy all night, honestly.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, you could have this as a screensaver easily.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
Right, let's
talked
try
about
and get
oh,
Exterminator
jeez.
out of here.
He almost
Let me
got
hold your
hit.
hand.
Oh, this is a dangerous road.
He's gonna get hit.
Yeah.
He's gonna get hit.
You can't imagine the amount of times that I've actually loaded from autosave.
Oh,
There's
I
a
bet.
reason why. There's a reason why I have autosave every minute.
Yeah. Now I understand.
Yeah. Chat's asking how many trains on the map.
I've counted them actually when I was writing the article. It's exactly 227, but many of them are idle because if you look around at like the old ore stations, they are actually not going anywhere because the ore is depleted and they just I should just deconstruct them, but I just didn't have time to care. So the number, like, I actually have no idea how many trains are running. So I mean, I could say percentages, but I would probably be completely off the mark. So
Yeah.
it's a lot, but I have no like quantitative thing that I can say.
Yeah.
Right. Now this, I find this junction particularly interesting. This kind of almost like, I almost want to call it a rocket junction because it kind of looks like a rocket where we have this split here, this like triangle, and then it does another triangle pretty much at the other end.
Yeah.
It's really interesting. I mean, I've never built a junction like this, and while I've played with you, Will, we've never really built one like this either.
Well, it's
No, I
just
mean-
about the layout, right? You just find the exact gaps that you need and eventually just fits.
Yeah. I mean, this.
Because like the only point is that like each of these things, like this where I'm standing now, it's exactly one waiting bay. And that's the only like measure that you take from it. And the rest is just, you know, the typical like 2 rail tiles, rail, 2 rail tiles, rail. And it's like, that's the whole pattern. There's no other magic. And then the only thing that you need to figure out is the spacing in the diagonal in here, so that you can actually make these triangles of this curved rail and make the signals fit there properly. But that's the only thing. It's just about fiddling with the layout, but like systematically, it's actually not very like specific, like special or something.
Right. So, I don't know, do you want to move in, see if chat has questions, or if we have questions, and we can maybe just, you know, watch trains or whatever?
Yeah,
I'm open to anything.
Yeah,
Awesome.
I'm going to park myself down by some trains.
Yeah.
And chat, if you've got any questions.
By the way, there is one interesting thing to mention. In the beginning of this game, every of these trains actually had a limit of the cargo wagon like size to 3 slots. Like not 3 rows, 3 slots. I was actually transporting everything in that for, I don't know, 40 hours of the game.
Oh,
So
God.
that's actually I actually managed to fill the 4-lane junction within like these 40 hours. And then I was like, okay, if I want to continue playing in any reasonable way and not have to make like 8 lanes per direction, I will have to like free the train limits. So I actually did that, but it was an interesting test. Just a small note, because nobody knows that. It's like, it's not written anywhere and you can't tell it from the save, but I think it's quite interesting.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
Yeah, it's insane. Don't do that.
Yeah, don't do that.
Okay, I've parked up. I got my comfy train watching chair out. Right, I'm good. I don't have to move again.
The only other interesting things are that, like, I don't know, the furnaces, for example, they disable themselves if they aren't needed. It's only working, I think, for the iron plate and steel production. So that it's a simple series of checks on the belts, like if you have full output of the copper plate or the iron plate, and you have the like no iron ore or like one of them, then the column actually disables itself. Like right now, I don't care because I have so many solar panels. But when I was like building this, I didn't have nearly as many, so I had to care about the power consumption. So it's actually helping a lot. And in general, I really like this furnace layout. I think it's the smallest that you can get for belt base.
Yeah, I think so too. This is a very compact layout.
Yep. I've got some questions from chat. What does the red wire do down the main line?
Nothing. It's actually, I was experimenting with it. It was one of the things that I was trying. You can see that currently there's 3 signals. I think the gray one is for gears and the rest, I don't know. I think the green one was for green circuits. I was trying basically to read how many green circuits are in the main station in the delivery. And if it was under some threshold, then I would like let the green circuit trains go. The issue was that if I had, let's say, 4 green circuit trains, they would all like start going at the same time in a wave because the threshold would obviously be reached at the same time. So I either could do something crazy with combinators that I release 1 train at a time, but instead I just chose to completely change the system to be like more like on demand, as I said previously. And the circuit network isn't used right now, but that was the idea. And with the like 3 slot cargo events, as I said previously, I actually really needed like, let's say 8 green circuit trains to deliver to the main base. Well, now I need, I don't know, 2, 3, 4, something like that.
Yeah.
So at that case, I really needed some checking or some logic that would determine if the train can go or not. So that's what it was for.
Cool. No question. Are there plans to let us connect the rocket silo to the circuit network?
There were plans, but the only reason like for that was the auto launch.
Mm-hmm.
But then we just made a simple button for the auto launch. And
Yep.
now I'm not sure like why would you actually do that. Like you could check the percentage progress, you could check, I guess, the amount of science pack inside. But other than that, I don't know. I don't really see too much of a benefit. Why would you do that? But yeah, it's one of the things which is like on the list of circuit network connectable things in the future.
Yeah.
So maybe eventually, but right now, honestly, I don't see the point too much.
Okay. What's your favorite part of the game?
Oh, that's an interesting point. Probably belts, as you can tell, I guess.
Yeah.
Because for some reason, I know the reason, but I find them very similar to Rails in OpenTTD. The way how you build them, the way how you make the layouts, and even the logic how you think about them, it's very similar to laying down train networks in OpenTTD. Like, it might sound strange, like obviously the Rails are Rails, right? So they are the same in each game, but it's not the case. Like in Factorio, the Rails are such a huge scale that I just lose the feeling of like the 1 by 1 tile thing. And in OpenTT, that's exactly what you do. Like if you build a big junction, then you always find every single tile that you can utilize and you try to drag a rail through the whole junction. It's basically exactly what I'm talking about with the mess of the belts in the central factory. So probably belts, I think.
I wouldn't have guessed that at all.
Yeah.
There's actually there's many things. I like multiple of them, but also it might sound weird, but actually biters, because when I was playing, for example, Minecraft, I hate Minecraft, by the way. It's like I can actually openly state that. It's like I don't really like the game at all. And the main reason was because I've been playing it for, let's say, I don't know, 50 hours, and I found all of the recipes. I've tried like all of the automated farms and some redstone and stuff. And of course, I guess I could have went to the modded Minecraft, but I didn't. But the main thing that was just like not making me interested was that after the first night that you hide in some house, like the way to survive is like there is basically nothing. Like the zombies are there, but they aren't really dangerous in any way if you just hide.
Mm-hmm.
Where in Factorio, if you expand, like you get directly punished by the pollution system and how the biters react to it. And if you go kill them, then there's again the evolution. And overall, it's like, I wouldn't say that it's like a super strong point of Factorio. It's like extremely developed, but I would say that it's one of the things which makes it like really fun for me, because it's like for progress, I actually get punished in a way. And that's really nice.
I can understand that.
Yeah.
And there's many other ways and many other things, but these are probably the most like significant ones for me.
I've got a question for the viewers and chat now. Who's sat here watching him running around these trains playing frog, or just waiting for the squish?
Like that?
There we go. Yeah, if externally clinging on for dear life, hasn't moved a muscle in 10 minutes.
Nope, my hands are off the keyboard.
This was actually not intentional. I just randomly died.
The timing was perfect.
Yeah, I can see that, but damn. Oh, I'm slow as hell now.
So,
I'll get there.
While you come down here, we'll see you in like a couple days.
Yeah.
So a good question someone had in chat, which I'm sure actually all of us are wondering, is they say, like, what's the progress report in regards to inserter HD graphics for inserters?
The answer is yes.
Yes, that they're happening. We know that, but I mean, because I know it's really complicated, right?
Oh, the thing is that, yeah, the solution, which will be like the final one, is going to be extremely complicated, and it might require like a completely different system to doing graphics that we haven't seen in Factorio yet.
Oh dear.
And that's something like, we've done many crazy things. Like almost every single entity is like a world of its own. It's always extremely complicated.
Mm-hmm.
And this is like the absolute pinnacle of like complicatedness, because like, for example, you have the wagons, and if you park the wagon in the horizontal station, then the problem is that, you know, you see the inserters above it, because you have some layering system like that the hands draw above it, because you simply define that they do, otherwise you wouldn't see them, and you want to see them. And then they draw over assembling machines and over power poles and over all those things. So to answer it simply, the process is very complicated, but the idea right now is that I'm probably going to do a high-res version like very soon. It's basically going to be exactly the same as it is. It's just going to be more pixels. And that will like give you guys what you want.
Right, just easier.
And we will just have time to do it properly eventually, but not right now. But yeah, that's the idea.
Okay, that's cool.
In fact, like, if you actually want me to spoil it, right now I'm actually working on the power poles, chests, and inserters in high-res. So that it's like the last things that you see the most, and at the same time like the burner miner, because simply that's the first thing that you built in the game. It's not in high-res, which is kind of embarrassing.
Right.
But we'll see how it goes. But yeah, in the inserters, it's absolute hell. It's really crazy.
Oh yeah, I bet.
And we're thinking about like really wild solution, and I don't honestly even want to say this, because it's really, it sounds even crazier than it is, and it's probably best if you just keep it for when you see it, and
yeah.
Oh, there's a good one. Pop, any plans for the character in high-res as you see him the most?
Yeah, it's actually also on the radar like super soon, but it's very complicated again. But this time it's not complicated like in the way that we can't do it. It's complicated in the way that like the 3D file, it's very complicated because there's all these animations that like how it actually moves and how it's animated and all the details. And at the same time, it's like the main protagonist. It's like very, very important. So it's not just a high-res conversion. It's actually going to be probably like conversion and like something extra, with like making it nicer, you know, adding some details, fitting the style better. So yeah, basically it's the same as the other things. It's just
right,
more pixels, but at the same time, some different style. Well, like for example, the rails, these are like, yeah, we reworked the rails so that they look different. Obviously, it took a lot of time. And something similar, I guess, is going to happen with the character. But with the, let's say, the assembly machines, all I did was that I just rendered it in double size. I changed a few things, like very, very little, just to make it work and have more pixels, and that's it. So that's like the main difference. But hopefully soon. Well, I guess I can say that to almost anything, hopefully soon. But yeah, it's kind of the reality. You can't do anything, everything at the same time, I guess.
I saw another good question. in chat. Okay, well, actually, damn, there's a lot. So someone said, so you know about how if you insert onto underground belts, it like helps you get full belt compression, right?
Yes.
Someone asked, wouldn't it be more elegant if inserters could just compress belts themselves without using that trick, or is that not possible?
Yeah, honestly, I don't have an answer to that much.
Okay.
I think it would be nice, and it would make a lot of sense. Same time, I'm just old and used to this shit that we already have, so I kind of like it. But I think it would be a good change if inserters could do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess it would be good because like solving it with the underground belts, it's unintuitive and weird. It's already enough that the underground belts split lanes, and adding this, it's like more mysteries.
Right.
But I don't think it's like a critically important thing. But I would definitely agree that it would be a good idea. At least right now. Like I would have to think about that a lot because it has many impacts. But I don't really see what would it break that much.
I assume the terrain graphics in the Red Desert is also, was it super soon?
Yeah, well, actually, that's a very complicated topic. Like the Red Desert, you can actually see it in the game right now.
Yeah,
It's very rare, but it's there. It's actually completely changed into like actual real version of the high-res terrain. But overall, it's a very complicated topic. We're working on it. We're basically doing all we can, but we'll see. There's a lot of things to say, but it's probably not going to be super soon. That's all that I can say. But don't get your hopes super high.
Okay. Soon TM then.
Yeah, soon TM. Yeah, kind of
We'll
like
see.
version 15 soon. So I mean that's fine. We have so much other stuff to play with.
Yeah.
Yeah. The thing is that it's going to be awesome. Like it changes absolutely everything. It's incredible. Like for example, even in my factory where you can't really see the ground, it still makes a huge impact. Everything is just different. So
I bet.
It's really good, and at the same time, that makes it extremely important and needs to be treated with extreme care. So it's just super complicated thing, and if you have a generator which is actually meant to generate all these things, it's just crazy. It's really crazy.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Do you see anything else, Will?
Which highlight one? What would you add, but no will not be added?
Yeah, like
if
maybe
you could have something that we added.
How many hours do you have?
I'm here all night, mate. So
let's go with like top 2 or 3 things that you would add that won't be.
I think the first one would probably be the train tunnels.
Yeah, that'd be mine too, probably.
Not so sure.
And a lot of people.
Second one would be a system on belts, which would actually make them super high throughput, but with like an extra like effort. So, for example, you would have, let's say, containers, and would actually be putting things into these containers. They would kind of look like a chest, and it would just be moved by a belt. So it's kind of like a car.
Kind of like a barreling process.
Yeah, you know what? You would have a special like belt pieces that you would research, and these special belt pieces would be able to reroute these containers, because these containers would have like limitations that they can't go into splitters and they can't go into undergrounds. So you have like a massive stack size that you can transport on them. So it's like kind of an optimization in a way, I guess. But that's like the idea. It would like kind of be the stepping stone between like a rail and the belt, because it would actually have a high throughput, but you could get it through small places. You would get it probably earlier, I don't know. But I think there's other things that we already have, like, you know, the stack sizes for the inserters. We could even have the belt just stack items on top of each other. That's actually possible easily. We could do, I don't know, probably something else, but I'm pretty sure that's not going to happen. Other than that, not much actually. I think like most of the ideas that I'm thinking are pretty realistic that it might happen.
Yeah, I mean, those sound pretty good. Those would be things I'd like for sure.
Yeah, there was one more thing, and it's a small one, but since I actually started using the beacons, I would like them to be, instead of like binary, it's reaching either yes or no, it would actually have like a range, and the closer you are, the more bonus you actually get. So it's not like, oh, I know that I have an assembly machine, I have 2 tiles, and I need to build a beacon on the third, so that I need to build an inserter and a belt, and then that, so that the layouts wouldn't be so generic, like, okay, it's always a row, but you would actually have like more interesting stuff. And also like maybe a special beacon which is actually able to influence other beacons, which is also totally nuts. It would probably be overpowered as hell.
Oh, that would be so cool though.
You know, like just it's like, to me, it's like the top idea for like a mod, because it's like super imbalanced. It's absolutely insane, and for vanilla, it's just too much. And I'm pretty sure that thing is not going to happen. I'm not even going to suggest it, by the way.
Yeah.
It's like one of the ideas that I had. There's not really much else, honestly.
Well, awesome. I saw a good question, because we were actually discussing this when we were playing with our seating a day or so ago. Is there any plans or any possibility of changing resource generation to be more like RSO, or to have an option to have it more like RSO rather than the Perlin noise thing?
Oh, it depends what exactly you mean by that. Because honestly, I tried RSO once, and I discovered that I need to walk 20 minutes to get to the first ore patch. And I was like, okay, fuck this. So,
that sounds perfect to me, though.
Yeah, I guess.
I understand.
Yeah.
In what way do you actually like mean that? Do you mean like more configurable, or is it in some way like more beautiful, or?
No, not necessarily more like the option or the ability to have it spread out as much as RSO. Because, you know, in vanilla generation settings, if you do like the lowest possible frequency and stuff, they're still super close together, and there's no way to get them farther apart without RSO. So,
from my personal opinion, like your like scale of very close together is very weird. Like, for example, this map I think is already with very low, and the resource patches are kind of like not super close, I would say. But yeah, I understand. It's like a matter of taste, of course, and especially if you get used to, I don't know, 383 trains, then as we said previously, the scale just increases like crazy. So
yeah, exactly.
It would make sense to me. If we can make it somehow easily into the generator, that's something that I can't really answer, because the generator is like black hole. It's like you put some values into it, something comes out, but it might not. It's like,
right, exactly.
But whenever I look at Cube, how he works with it, and he has like 10 different noises on his screen and how they blend together, it's just, I'm not sure if I even want to understand it, because it's really crazy. It's really insane. So I can't really say anything how that works. I just have too much respect for the system, how it works, and I don't really want to say anything about it.
That's fine. That's fine.
Yeah, I understand. Like, if it's like a matter of configurability, I really understand the reason. I think it's possible, but yeah, that's just me thinking was possible without any actual knowledge about it.
Okay, that's a fair answer. And I mean, actually, looking at your map, this resource spread is pretty good. I mean, it's maybe a little closer than we'd normally like, but this is still pretty good. It's just, when I loaded, because we were searching for maps, I loaded the Rail World preset, which is supposed to be, you know, far apart. But after generating like 5 or 6 maps of those, the resources were like smack dab on top of each other, which is...
That's pretty weird.
Maybe I just got unlucky.
Like, I don't know.
Picture of it.
As I say, I think this is generated with the lowest frequency. So this is basically what you would get like as the best for your case. But at the same time, like if you see the radar ranges, I usually went ahead and like expanded to these stations that I could possibly see. At one point, I was actually having a problem that I had radars everywhere in my outposts, but I simply didn't see where to expand next because I just didn't have anything.
Right.
I guess you can always like mod the radars to like, scan a larger area. But
yeah. So I sent a picture of the typical thing we got from very low resource.
Which seems very off. Seems
Honestly, I never like really imagine very well from the map, like what's the scale, like how much is a chunk. But from the revealed area, I can kind of guess it. So
Yeah, that's
I
what
don't
I
actually
use.
know if it's that different to the thing that we have on this map. But yeah, it actually seems a lot more dense.
Yeah, it does seem quite a bit more
Yeah.
dense. I mean, I would actually like what you have on this map, resource spread wise.
Mm.
I would actually be okay with. I mean, these are decently
Mm.
spread apart.
Yeah, it's not too bad. Or there's too much oil for my liking, but
Well, we can tweak that, but yeah,
yeah.
it's honestly, I have no idea how much that is going to change because the generation is certainly going to change. Like there's going to be some changes, like the terrain generation alone, like the visuals, they require like touching the actual internals of the general just generation. That's actually why it's such a complex topic, and or at least one of the reasons, because
Well,
you just touch one thing on the inside and you just break like 10 other things, and it's like really important things like ore generation, water generation, fighter generation. It's
yeah.
just so many things. So
Speaking of generation, DXP had a good question. He'd like to have a tree setting
oh,
so you can turn down or up the number of trees
That'd be very
or
cool.
forests.
interesting idea. I'm not sure. It's what like honestly, why
Well,
not?
it was in the early version. There was a tree setting.
Yeah.
I've seen it in 0.4. There was a trees calculator.
Right, right. Well, I don't know if it's necessary, honestly. I'm not sure if I would like it, but I understand that some people just hate trees. At the same time, I think like if we just make
It can make it harder, make the game harder as well for death worlds because there'll be no absorption.
I understand. I think if there was more like something less water and it would automatically make more desert, I think that would make a better sense. Because currently the desert, as you can see on the map, it's actually also quite a problem because there is like mostly only grass. We're actually changing that in the next version as well. So there's probably going to be a lot more desert to see, mainly because there's like, I don't know, 12 versions of desert or something. It's insane.
Wow.
It's like they vary in like shades and very like decently. So it's not like you will get like 12 absolutely different deserts. They're similar in a way, but different enough. Just like to make nice gradients of like large scale terrains and stuff. But yeah, I understand that the setting for trees would make sense in some way.
I saw.
Vaderhand's got one there. How about different biters spawning? So instead of just one generic type of biter base, I think he's asking, so there'd be like worm heavy ones but less spawners, or lots of spawn ones that give big attacks, and just to mix up,
Right. Well,
just to
honestly,
mix it up a bit.
Yeah, honestly, I have no idea how exactly this works right now. But yeah, like some diversity in biters, I guess, why not? But at the same time, I feel like what will it actually like do? Okay, you approach a base, you see there's these types of biters or worms or whatever. Like currently, you already like the tactics that you like choose for killing the base. You basically already decided that when you like left the base. You leave with the tank, you leave with the flamethrower, you leave with the 100 bots behind you. I guess you could like leave with all of them and then like decide at the base. But other than that, I'm not sure like how much of like good impact would it actually have. Like what would actually improve if the bases were more diverse. And at the same time, I feel like the biters, they don't really need to be something like extremely amazing and something that's like extremely interesting, because they're just there like as the like response to you like colonizing the planet and just growing, and like as I said previously, they're kind of like the punishment for the progress. That's kind of how I see it. I don't really take a lot of focus on making them overall like super complex. They're just those things that they are, and I think it's like fair enough. But whether they will improve, maybe. I wouldn't expect it like before version 1.0, but let's see.
Okay. Let's see. So a question that's been asked, I think, multiple times now is there any possibility to have higher level belts added, or do you think you guys are pretty decided on just keeping 3?
It's interesting. I was actually thinking about that yesterday. Like, why not have 1 extra? At the same time, it's like, oh, like 4, and then what? Then you would have 5, and I don't know. I'm not sure. What I was actually considering was having a belt speed research.
Oh, that would be cool.
The issue is that you would probably always need to do it in doubles or something. Like the speed would actually have to like increase in some really interesting ways. Like for example, the blue belt, it's 3 yellow belts in speed.
Mm-hmm.
So you probably always have to multiply all of them by 2 or something. So the research would have to be stupidly expensive. And then you would break inserters because they couldn't pick up from it. And I'm not sure if it's necessary. And then at the same time, I feel like it's nice that you can say, yo, my factory needs 16 blue belts of thing. While if you would have the research, you would suddenly have, yeah, it's 16 belts, but with which level of research or with what? And I kind of feel the same way, like if you, well, not the same way, but in a similar way that it's heading to a similar direction. If you add like more belts, let's say 3 more levels, then like for most of the things that I have, for example, in the base, like in the main mess in the center, I could solve most of the problems just by having like 1 belt per train station. It would kind of be done, and the logistic like challenge wouldn't be as big. In fact, it's actually one of the things that I sometimes in some factories did, was that I restrict myself to only yellow belts. Like period. I just build yellow belts everywhere. Obviously, you need a total insane amount of them, but the idea is that logistic challenge. It's kind of the same as like refusing robots, I guess. But yeah, like I don't really think that we need to have more belts. That's
I don't think so either.
Yeah, I don't think so, because then it keeps. I mean, you're moving into like Bob's mod territory, and then it just keeps going infinitely.
Exactly.
You know, we get a 4th level, and then people want a 5th level, so on and so forth.
Yes, exactly. And also, like the thing to note, like mention, is that the project is like developed for 5 years, and if you like made a like some decision, let's say 3 years ago, and at that point, like adding belt, like 1 extra belt would feel insane to you, and today it would feel okay. Then imagine that today it feels okay to add 2, and what's going to happen in 3 years? Like, what's the final game going to look like, right? So that's the thing, because this is mostly based on a feeling that you like think that it would harm the gameplay or not. And this feeling is always like shifting. It's not something that's like set in stone, because you get experience from playing the game, you see people playing the game, you read about how people make factories, you react to it in some way. And like the idea about like the good gameplay of Factorio, it's changing. Of course, there's some like basic things, but these simple things, like, is the number 3 or 4 correct? Well, I don't know. Today I feel like 3. Maybe in 3 years I will feel like 9. So yeah, that's just a simple note. It's like if it's based on a feeling, that it can always.
We were saying the other day that we like the puzzle. Like you're given 3 types of belts that are underground. You've got the 5 different types of insert, 3 different levels of factory. Those are your tools. This is what you've got to work with. Now puzzle it out and build. Whereas that's why one of the biggest hates I have with Bob's mods and that you have the 90-degree fast filtered inserters or whatever they do. Is that every possible combination has an insert. There's no challenge anymore.
Yeah, I have a very similar feeling to that, and I'm not sure if it's like the same thing, but you mentioned one thing, and that's that here's your tools, here's just a few handy tools. And it's one of the biggest like conceptual differences that I see in OpenTTD and in Factorio. Because in OpenTTD, all the game is about is basically laying tracks, building signals on them, and you have like straight track, diagonal track, track going uphill, tunnel, and a bridge and a station, and that's it. There's nothing else. And like I've been playing the game for today, it could be like, I don't know, 10 years, and I can still imagine that somebody invents something new. And it's incredible because you have really just a small amount of tools, but the complexity that you can get from them is insane. While in a way, Factorio has like, it doesn't have the amount of depth in each of the individual systems, like for example, rail system and belt system and pipe system and boat system and all the others. But combining it all together in a factory in total is probably even more complex in a way. But it's that simple thing that like if you have a tool and it does many things, it's actually really nice. And just adding more things, especially if it's just a number change. Like we're actually discussing lately a lot, like if the turbine isn't too much of a steam engine Mark II, because basically it is right now.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see. But the point that I'm trying to make is that if it just adds numbers, then it's kind of boring. It's always nice if it can add some new amount of logic to the puzzle or a new complexity or a new possibilities to what you're doing.
Right.
Which, with the example of the belts, it's like they would actually remove the things that you're doing. It's just, okay, now we build 6 belts, now we would build 2, and okay, what's the benefit? Like you're doing less. Like I understand, for example, the current progression. It's like a progression system. You in the early game you have something that's very basic. Later you have something that's like faster, obviously, simply because the game scales. Like especially the robots, and you need more and more production. And also, like when you play it, it's actually a very similar idea that I was describing earlier. It's like you feel like you have a lot. You feel like you have a lot after 2 hours of playing. You build your 2-belt furnace and you're like, yeah, I'm the king of the world, everything. And after 20 hours, you have 30 belts and you're like, yeah, now I have a lot. And it's the same thing. It's like you're chasing the carrot like a donkey. It's like you're always building more and more faster, right? And yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Great question from chat. A lot of the mods that we used to use in our playthroughs have been implemented into version 15, into base game. Are there plans for any more mods to be implemented into base game?
Well, we usually actually don't necessarily like, okay, this mod, we want it. It's not always working that way, or not exactly. We usually come to the same conclusions.
Okay,
But
you know what I mean. Sort of...
I know what you mean, exactly. I'm just trying to think what mod could there be.
Yeah, a lot of them have been implemented. A lot of them.
If I think like
foul,
really
maybe.
If I think like really deeply, then maybe something. There's some talk about like earlier construction robots.
Mm-hmm.
There's some talk about, I don't know, actually. It's not that much.
No, I mean, at this point, a lot of them have gotten put into the game already.
Version
honestly,
15 Sim, we were using like 12 mods. Now we're down to 1.
Yeah. To be honest, I would probably have to like think about this for a while, probably even open the mod portal and actually like really see, whoa. Okay. But from the top of my head, it's not so simple question to answer, honestly. It's not much. Like it's probably one of the reasons why I'm really confident about 0.15, because I feel like it's a really complete package. It's like really many of the corners have been brushed out, and overall the gameplay is just much more smooth. There's like much less of these edges. Like for example, the blueprint string. It's like one of my favorite things. Like actually there's one. I would really like to have Factorio and self-replicating blueprints in vanilla, so that you could have, multiple servers trading items between each other. And the self-replicating blueprint, I mean, that's kind of obvious, but that's probably the biggest ones that I could think about, or at least like for my own personal preference, because I feel like both of them just add something that it's a relatively simple thing, but it just adds so much, like conceptually. It's not just, oh, now you can build a better beacon. No, it's like this influences the whole game as a whole, just everything. And that's really interesting, especially like with the trading items between servers. I was literally just, my mind was blown when I heard that idea for the first time. That's just amazing.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Uh,
Other than that, I'm not sure. As I say, like if I thought about it for a while, I could probably think about a couple. But these are the ones that I really like. When I saw it, it's like, oh man, it's so consistent with the game. It's like, it's really like part of the idea. Like, oh, you optimize the game. You're making like 60 UPS instead of 50. Look, I have 3 servers which are doing 3 times better. It's like, it's incredible. It's just like a mechanism which just grows, and you just share everything and just expand it at all costs, and that's just so consistent with the general idea of Factorio.
Mm-hmm. Ooh,
And actually going through the mod portal, just randomly checking mods, and I can't really see much.
Yeah. Here's a good one. Do you devs have any plans or ideas about automating combat?
oh, that is a
Which I
good
think
one.
is a mod. I think there is a mod for some
I-
sort of bots that go out and destroy stuff. But
Yeah, I definitely like. It's one of my things. Like for example, this factory showed it to me a lot. That the biggest issue is that I simply have to go there. That's like, I don't want to. I have 30 UPS. I don't want to be walking around in some red territory when I have like 230 destroyer robots following me, and they just kill everything. There's no challenge. And I just want to focus on building my factory. So I have a bunch of ideas which would make this like a lot better. I even have some ideas how to almost completely automate. I think it should never be like to the point where it's completely automatic. Like for example, if I give example of the robot army, you just produce things and they just kill stuff, and you basically stop caring, because once the biters are far away enough from your factory, they are no threat. You don't need to care.
Right.
While right, if I would imagine something that would be more like along the line of the iron cannon, so that you like feel the power. You click somewhere and there's just death all around. And we were discussing about some interesting things like regarding the nuclear warheads. Like,
yeah, I was going to say a good mix of the two. I think would be.
Yeah, it was one of my
to
personal
fire
like.
the atomic bomb from the map view at the cost of maybe a rocket launch. You launch
Yeah, exactly. It was one of my suggestions that we would utilize the rocket for, that you would put like an extremely expensive warhead inside of the rocket instead of the satellite. So for the satellite, you get science packs. For the warhead, you get obviously the missile.
A big bad boom. Yeah.
And then you just click on the map and you just see everything disappear.
Yeah, and that's a very expensive as well, because that would be a huge amount of resources to kill one biter base that you could go over there and do yourself in 10 seconds, but you're just too lazy to walk the 5 minutes over there to get it, and that's Factorio.
Yeah, it's like there's many ideas like this. Like, for example, I would like the destroyers not to be capsules, but they would actually deploy from a combative roboport in our armor. Yeah. Because but it's just like, these are like just small improvements to how the combat works, but you still have to go there. But there's many ideas what to do so that you don't even have to go there. Like there's the idea of the artillery wagon. So you would basically have a train that's riding on your network and it's just shooting everything like in a large range. But I don't know, it's like I feel it's okay for like cleaning the expansions, but you have to build the rail first there. So it's like, okay, I already went there, already cleaned it, so why should I make the artillery now?
But it could be useful, because if you're expanding rail lines into enemy territory, which we were doing yesterday to build up, if you had an artillery thing and that had like a range pointing forward, like an arc, like a gun turret, or a flame turret with a minimum range, as you push the rail line forward, this artillery train could literally clear ahead of you.
Yeah, certainly. I can definitely see like its benefits. I can totally see that it would be useful. I just don't think it's the ultimate answer to everything. I think it's definitely good.
But
I just
it
think
sounds like a lot of fun, and they need it.
I think if
how much to make it happen?
I think if there's something like a combination between the artillery train, the nuclear warhead, and maybe something else, and I think that would be enough to really make the combat in the late game like, okay, I don't care, I just clear the biters. But that's the point. You actually care. It's just You don't need to go there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And like especially the zoom to map and all these features now, it just suggested so much. Like I'm actually now getting to the concept of the wall. I'm not sure if you noticed it, but at the total edge of the factory in the north, like actually well beyond the edge, there is a wall. And the idea of this blueprint is that it's just able to build basically itself. So
it passes everything it needs to build itself over, and you can do it from the map,
I can
which
actually
is really cool.
Yeah.
So I can actually show you right now. It's actually I just placed the blueprint there, so as you can see, first it's going to clear the trees, and then it's going to do the things. I'm not sure if there's materials for it now. Yeah, there should be. But that's the point. Like I'm standing here in the middle of the factory, and I have my like wall expand on the edge, and I don't even need to go there. If I have enough materials, I can do this at 5 places at once. I don't care. The only thing that actually stops this right now is landfill. And today morning it was trees, because if the tree was on the distant edge of the roboport, the first roboport wouldn't be able to clear it. So
haven't they fixed that by expanding the construction range of roboports?
Yeah, I did that today morning when I was testing this wall. It's basically directly to fix this kind of idea that, because previously I've increased the construction area to 102 to 102, and that's to be able to even build the roboport in a clear area, because before you couldn't. And now you can both build it and you make sure that it always works. So it's just like a proper fix to the previous idea. And you see now that there's actually robots going on the belt. The main robots are stupid. They don't build the belt first. So yeah, eventually they'll get to the roboport, and then they will start building the second half of the wall, and then they will do the rest. So
I guess that leads on to the question that's now just come up. Bots placing landfill, yay or nay?
I would like it. I have no idea how complex that is to do, but I think...
Would it not be the same as them placing concrete or brick?
I think so. Well, theoretically, I have no idea how the internals of the tile correction logic and in general the terrain works, because whenever I ask like a question, hey, can we do these very specific water edges? And they're like, it's tile, this isn't a tile, and this is like some very special programmer thing. And the discussion usually ends that I just see that it's complicated and I give up with the idea. But like, to answer it, I think I will answer it in a longer answer. Overall, I think there's many things in the game, but some of them behave like very inconsistently. Like one of the things is landfill. One of the things is, for example, the power switch. Like you have the landfill, but you can't place it with robots. You have the power switch, but you can't really blueprint the setups correctly. And I think like one of the things to like finish the game, to really make it like polished and really consistent, is to fix these inconsistencies, to really like, if we have a feature, then the feature should be possible to utilize everywhere. So it's not like, oh, you can't do this because you can't, because obviously. It either has to have like a clear gameplay reason, or it should be done. So I would say yes.
That makes sense. I would completely agree. All right. Well, I think at least for my video, that might do it. It's about an hour and a half.
Yeah, that's all. Oh man.
Yeah, I think we should give him a break as well.
Yeah, give him a break. I think this has been awesome. Yeah. I love this factory. I could never play in it because it would drive me nuts, but I really do. Like it's just.
I would have to nuke it.
It's just infinitely like interesting.
Well, there's there's a reason why I don't have the nuke research, right?
Exactly. He probably thought about it and he's like, "Wait, Will's gonna be in here. Better not."
Yeah.
Yeah, I swear I didn't like use a command to unresearch it and clear all of the items from the world. I swear. But
you're that dangerous, Will.
Yeah, chat wants me to go fix belts.
I actually really didn't. But yeah, well.
All right. Well, awesome. I think that's going to close it for my video at least. And thank you so much for joining us. It was...
No, thank you. Thank you. It was very nice.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Really great.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that'll do it. So anyone who's still watching, congrats for making it to the end. It's been extremely awesome and interesting. Lots of great info, and would love to hear people's thoughts down in the comments of the video. But I'll see you next time.